Life, in its essence, is suffering. It is the eternal truth that no human can escape, no matter their wealth, their accomplishments, or their status. From the moment we are born, we are thrust into the tumult of existence, bound by desires, by pain, and by the inescapable march toward death. But perhaps this suffering is not merely a curse. Perhaps, in understanding it, we find the key to transcending it. Are we truly free, or are we but puppets pulled by the strings of our desires? From the outset of our lives, we are governed by a force I have called the will. This will is not a conscious thought or a decision made by the mind, but rather a blind, irrational force that drives us to act, to desire, to consume, and to seek. And yet, it is a force that leads us to suffering. We do not wish for suffering, but we are its inevitable companions. For what is desire if not the root of all our pain? Desire is an unquenchable thirst. No sooner do we fulfill one wish than another arises, more powerful and demanding than the last. It is as though we are constantly chasing after an elusive mirage, only to find that satisfaction is but a fleeting illusion. Consider, if you will, the yearning for wealth. Many pursue it, and once obtained, they find that their suffering has merely shifted from the lack of wealth to the anxiety of maintaining it. No matter the object of desire, once attained, the relief is always temporary. We deceive ourselves into thinking that fulfillment lies beyond the horizon, that once we achieve the next step, all will be well. Yet, fulfillment is but an empty shell, a fleeting moment of peace before the next wave of desire crashes upon us. This cycle, my friends, is the nature of life itself. The will is insatiable, and through it we suffer. We often speak of life as being beautiful, as though beauty alone can grant us escape from suffering. But beauty, too, is bound by the chains of desire. Even the most exquisite works of art, music, painting, poetry, are but moments of reprieve. In their beauty, we experience a temporary relief from the ceaseless desires of the will. But such moments pass, and we return to the darkness of our existence. How many of us, in the presence of great beauty, have felt a deep longing, a sense of yearning? Yet, this very longing is itself a form of suffering. It is a hunger that cannot be satisfied, a thirst that never ends. Even in the midst of pleasure, we are haunted by the shadow of pain. But this suffering, you may ask, is it not merely the product of our individual desires? Is it not something we could control if we chose to? The answer, alas, is far darker. The will, this blind force, is not limited to human beings. It is the very essence of all life. The plant grows, the animal hunts, and the human strives, all driven by the same relentless force. It is the will to live, to exist, to perpetuate. And in its wake, suffering follows. This endless striving is the foundation of all suffering. We are born to want, to struggle, to fight, and to die. And in the end, we find that death itself offers no respite, for even as we approach it, the will continues to demand more from us. The body decays, the mind weakens, yet the drive to persist remains. Yet, there is a path that offers temporary relief from this torment. In moments of pure aesthetic contemplation, when we are lost in a piece of music, in a work of art, or in the grandeur of nature, the will recedes. For a brief moment, we cease to desire. We are no longer driven by the pull of striving. In these fleeting moments, we transcend suffering and experience a temporary liberation. But such moments are rare, and they pass all too quickly. The question, then, is not how to escape suffering forever. Such an escape is impossible, but how to find a semblance of peace amidst the storm. A life lived purely in the pursuit of desire will lead to ruin, for the satisfaction it brings is but the shadow of true contentment. Perhaps the only true antidote to the suffering of the will is compassion. To recognize the suffering in others and to act from a place of empathy. In the moment we act with compassion, we step outside the grip of the will. We transcend the cycle of selfish desire and connect with something greater, an understanding of our shared humanity. Through compassion, we break the chains of the ego. We recognize that we are not isolated in our pain, but part of a collective struggle. It is in this recognition that we can find a moment of peace, even in the face of life's inevitable suffering. So, my dear viewer, I ask you to reflect. Life, as I have shown, is suffering. But in recognizing this, we come to understand that suffering is not the end, it is the very condition of our existence. Through compassion, through contemplation, and through acceptance, we find a way to live with the will, to live with our suffering, and perhaps, just perhaps, to find a fleeting moment of peace. The suffering of life is not to be avoided or denied, but embraced with understanding. To confront life's inherent pain is not to be defeated by it, but to rise above it with clarity and acceptance. Only then can we begin to truly see the world, not through the lens of selfish desire, but through the eyes of quiet wisdom. For in the face of suffering, we may discover what it truly means to live, not as slaves to our wants, but as beings capable of transcending them, if only for a fleeting moment.